Okay, let's head back to the J Roundtable and look ahead at the spring Broadway season. And we're joined again at the J Roundtable with contributing critic Jesse Oxfeld and our guest critic this week, Laura Heywood, or at Broadway Girl NYC. Yay. Jesse, Laura, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
So we're here to talk about the spring 2016 Broadway season. First up is Our Mother's Brief Affair, very new Jewish play by Richard Greenberg at MTC.
It's about Linda Lavin playing a suburban mother, which she does better than anyone in the world, who is in a, as they put it, it's on her long series of deathbeds, and she has a confession to tell her son or her daughter as she's dying. And the confession is that she had an affair, and then the more confession is that she had an affair, it turns out, with David Greenglass, who is Ethel Rosenberg's brother, who turned them in and is sort of the worst person ever in that sort of, that New York Jewish milieu of that world. And it then becomes this question of whether it's true, whether it's not true, and really what it is, it's about her desire to be remembered.
I liked it as the communication between a dying mother and her two adult children, one of whom was sort of ever present but not happy, and the other one who had gone to the West Coast and sort of disappeared out of her life. And I think that, it's a cliche that great acting is all about listening, but I really saw that in this show, and I felt like I could feel the relationship between them, and the actors are all so on point that alone was enough for me before I even knew what the twist in the story was.
Another new play coming almost directly from off-Broadway is The Humans, which is going to be opening at the Helen Hayes Theater later this month on February 18th. It's starring Reed, Bernie, Jane, Hootie, Shell. It is not a Jewish show, but boy, oh boy, is there family drama in this.
Like Our Mother's Brief Affair, this is a play that has everything to do with a great script, and it feels very literary to me. There's not a lot of special effects. There's not a lot of certainly there's no big show tunes or anything like that. But when you listen and you watch the subtleties, that's what I love about this play. The press and even the marketing has talked about how it's spooky and it's sort of this ghost story. So I went in expecting something sort of supernatural, but it really took this idea of something spooky and turned it on its head in a way that stuck with me, and that to me is what makes a great play.
Let's move into new musicals. Yay. Is Disaster, which was off-Broadway, I believe, last year, and it's a new musical by Seth Rudetsky and Jack Plotnick. 1970s disaster movies turned to Broadway stage.
Jukebox musical.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. What do we think?
Seth Rudetsky is one of the funniest men in the world, so I'm sure it's going to be really funny. He's not performing in it. He's performing in it as well. So it's and by the way, good for Seth when he gets a chance to have a big Broadway show. It's Yikvel actually for Seth having this opportunity.
I believe this is the first that he's written to be on Broadway. He was last on Broadway in The Ritz.
Which I think was his only Broadway credit.
Mm-hmm. As an actor. He's been a music director for lots of shows.
I hope it's fantastic.
Right. He sure did get a great cast,
Killer
too.
cast,
oh my gosh.
if you will.
Faith Prince and Roger Bart and Carrie Butler.
Adam Pascal.
Yeah.
Brand new musical coming from London, American Psycho.
It's one of my favorite movies in the world.
Yeah.
I donated to the American Psycho, the musical Kickstarter, when it first came out. I love Benjamin Walker. I love the movie.
Yeah.
However, that makes me a little bit nervous because it is a property that I adore and it's an actor that I really like. I feel like it has the capacity to be fantastic, but if it's not, I'm going to be heartbroken.
And it's music by Duncan Sheik, who we know probably most famously from Spring Awakening, which we saw back on Broadway last fall.
I have to say that if they cut out my favorite line from the movie, I'm going to be really upset, which is that every time he has to disappear, he says, I need to go return some videotapes. And that's something that I've incorporated into my life, and I can always tell I have a kindred spirit when I need to get out of a situation, and I say that, and they know what I mean.
Right. And now we have a new musical coming also called Nerds, which is the story of Bill Gates and Steve Jobs.
All I know about it was the press release last week, which was troublingly punny. When an announcement is quite that pun-filled, and one of them is it's a dot comedy, which isn't even a particularly new pun, it makes you a little worried about the underlying property.
Revival Plays, another show that is currently on Broadway, Noise is Off. Hilarious backstage rom-comedy. Are we enjoying this so far?
So here's the problem with Noises Off.
There's a problem with Noises Off?
Anytime you ever see another farce, you say, you know, I liked it, but it really wasn't Noises Off. That was my problem with Boeing Boeing, which was like fantastic, but like you sort of sit there and say, still not quite as good as Noises Off.
That's not a problem with Noises Off. That's a problem with everything else.
That is my point, exactly.
As we said, the cast is standout. Other than Andrea Martin, there's Megan Hilty. David Furr is particularly hilarious, and it's written by Michael Fran. And you must, as well as you guys, go see Noises Off. Another revival coming, The Crucible. Now that's going to be an interesting, another Ivo Van Hove directed play in the Arthur Miller Centennial. I have never seen The Crucible on stage. Read it, but I've never seen it. So I'm particularly excited. We have
Do you think it's a commentary on Bernie Sanders to be having a thing that echoes communist witch hunts in New England?
No.
Maybe it is the right moment.
Maybe. Jesse, you always give me something to think about, something extremely Jewish and arguably controversial to think about. It's starring Saoirse Ronan, who's Academy Award nominated for Brooklyn. All right, so finally let's move on to revival musicals. Sheldon Harnick is going to have his final big musical of the season, coming from first the Rothschilds and Sons off Broadway, then Fiddler, of course, and now he is going to be having a revival of She Loves Me. Are we excited to see Laura Benanti make her return to Broadway after Gypsy?
Of course we are.
No, I'm indignant about it.
I'm so excited about it. Like, I can barely sleep at night because I'm so excited about it.
You can at least be excited to see Laura Benanti come back, and she'll be joined by Gavin Creel, who I'm so thrilled to see back on Broadway, and Zachary Levi. We have to just mention all of them. This is the greatest cast. Also Jane Krakowski, Byron Jennings, and Michael McGrath. It's going to be, I think, a huge hit. And then finally, what will be our last opening of the season and our last musical in that is Shuffle Along, or the making of the musical sensation of 1921 and all that followed. And I will always read it because that is the longest title ever. But it is one exciting musical that will bring Audra McDonald back to the stage after her 6th Tony Award-winning show in Lady Day. Are we sleeping even less because of this return?
I already bought full price orchestra tickets, so if that tells you anything, like, this is one I buy a lot of tickets, but I went, as soon as they went on sale, I went and bought tickets. I have some family coming in from out of town that planned their trip around seeing this production, so we're very, very excited. I speak on behalf of the whole family.
They've chosen a good spokesperson.